No, you're not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. I am back here for round two today. Round two, which tentatively of three shows, although we'll see how my voice does after this one here. But we have a lot to talk about here because you're seeing, that's right, a referee with our guest who's always the mecca of something. And we're going to talk about why he's with a certain referee here. And we're going to talk about what is going on in the world of the mecca of the mirror, Andrew Loveless. Something tells me here we're not going to need any peanut butter. Something tells me this is not going to be the end all because we got plenty to HWF, talk about year-end goals, talk about 2025, big show starting the year off, and maybe even a thought or two on what those prodigies said about taking those belts that were a prized possession of Mr. Loveless. And plus, I'll talk to you about the story of Richie Allen and why you might want to be curious as to why he knows Andrew Loveless, plus who knows whatever else. There is no better way to start the night off U.S. time in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform that Andrew Loveless and Richie Allen helped build here. Yeah, that's right. And we're going to continue it now. And now everybody's waiting for it. They're waiting for it. Richie, it's the first time you're getting this introduction. I'm doing this for the second time, and we just hit 1,300 subscribers. So, no, I'm not going to do it 1,300 times like Bart Simpson when I repeat what I'm going to do, but he's not going to eat his shorts. I'm not going to eat mine because I got a microphone that I might eat if I don't get this introduction right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time now to introduce our guest and get the night off in style here on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. So, with wait for it. Further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show. One of the very best referees in the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit. His name is, simply put, Richie Allen, not related to Dick Allen, and the man that is certainly the mecca, always the mecca of the mirror, Sportswire Radio's greatest DJ, and our favorite DJ, Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer. He no longer needs peanut butter. You'll definitely be jealous of this introduction, and his name is, simply put, the man of the mirror, Andrew Loveless. Fellas, how are we doing?
Good. How are you, Tom?
I'll let you know after this show is off the air when my voice will certainly pick up again, and I'll have to figure out how am I going to do a third show if I do it, but we'll see about that. Enough about that. It is certainly good to be with you, gentlemen, certainly here on a Wednesday night in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage. We certainly have a lot to cover here over the next hour and 15 minutes or so. So I'm actually going to go right to my right in Richie Allen. And Richie, it is an absolute honor to have you. And I'm even more honored to have you when I found out you're a fellow New York Mets fan. So you definitely know my suffering, but I'm not going to talk to you about the New York Mets and what their offseason will be. I'm going to talk to you about, for those that are listening and watching here in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform that Andrew Loveless and Richie Allen helped build here, Sports by Radio. Richie, so what is your relationship with the one and only mecca of the mirror, Andrew Loveless?
Well, Mr. Loveless.
Yes.
He's a good friend of mine. I was best friends with his brother, Stephen.
We met a lot.
And after Stephen passed, I knew Mr. Loveless was in training to become a wrestler. And I debuted as a referee in 2007. Okay. So at this point, what was it, Loveless? 2022, 2021?
October 2021 is when he died.
Okay, so then you contact me for HWF in 2022. Matt Silks reached out to me, and then I had turned down probably a dozen bookings. I turned down promoters at least half a dozen times. I said, I'm retired. I'm retired. I'm retired. It's like the mafia.
Yeah, I know.
You
I
can
come
never
from
get
the world
out.
of politics. It's funny you say that because I come from the world of politics. I briefly worked for a New York State senator in the government. I've had a lot of, I'd say significant campaign roles. And they always say in politics, everybody says, "Oh, I want to quit." The thing locally, they say in Brooklyn and Staten Island, because obviously figure we're the home pretty much of it. Pretty much where I grew up is like the home of the mafia, literally. But it's pretty much once it's like the mafia. Once you quit, you think you quit, but they suck you right back in. So I've heard that term many times.
That's exactly what happened. I kept following it, and I kept up with the scene, but I wasn't active. And then once I finally gave in, and I went to HWF show, and I remember how much fun I had and how much I enjoyed it. So it became a regular thing then. And then it's kind of funny, where I started in 2007 was the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation, based out of Indiana, PA. Okay.
Yep.
So now they're running again, and everything's come full circle for me. I debuted with them in 07, and then the last show I worked was we had a show in October in Johnstown, APWF. So it's all come full circle for me. I'm working multiple places. I guess you could say I'm back in demand.
Well, it's hard to have a high quality referee. I watch a lot of wrestling from all over the place, and sometimes these shows and companies can use referee. And let me ask you though this question. I hate to do this, but you would be in a unique position to answer this question. What are some of the similarities and differences between Andrew and his brother Steve?
Oh, similarities and differences.
I know it's a tough one, but you're in a unique position that.
Oh, here we go.
I gotta answer five. I mean, what do you want me to do? Not.
Go ahead, shoot it.
I think the Andrew is more reserved than his brother. His brother Steve was a shooter.
Oh, very much.
He didn't hold back. He shot from the hip.
That would have been great here like 2 months ago, but I've moved away from that. So, but he would have been great 2 months ago, but we moved away.
Right.
So Andrew's more reserved, but similarities. They both have a love for wrestling that's unquestionable. That's what actually brought us all together.
Yep.
Is our love and passion for pro wrestling and indie pro wrestling in particular.
Absolutely.
We enjoy doing it. I've been doing it since 07. I've worked a lot of places, seen a lot of things, and worked some big names. And then I've come along for this ride with Loveless and see, what he can do, and try to get him to the next step, where he wants to be. And it's been a fun ride, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun again, Reverend.
You're having fun, and I'm excited to talk with you. I'm a lot more excited by the second year because I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Let me ask you, though, another question, because I could get some of the things you said about Andrew and his brother, but let me ask you now a similarity and a difference. You were obviously a referee back in 2007. You certainly have seen the independent wrestling circuit. You've seen a lot of it. I will say the Pennsylvania independent wrestling scene is one of the best, I think, in the United States. And I cover wrestling from all over the world. I have UK wrestlers. We just had on our friends in Colory Community Wrestling, as I call them, to start the day off. I get wrestlers from all over the world here that come on. I had a guy, Stud Bronson, who's wrestling Savio Vega in January from Arizona. But what do you think are some of the similarities and differences from when you started in 07 to what we are now in 2024?
I think back in 07, you had to have a little tougher, thicker skin.
Okay.
People were more critical. Training was a little more strict, I think. than what it is now. Now you have some guys getting into business that maybe 20 years ago they probably wouldn't have had a chance. It was a little harder to get in then than it is now.
How does that
But
make you feel?
You could say it. You could
How
say
does
it.
that make you feel?
I'd be one of those guys, just because of the size thing. I know.
Well, listen,
that
if it makes
that
you
is
feel
a
better,
big
my
thing.
friend
Yeah.
Chris Urban took him 5
It was a big man's game back
Yeah.
then. It was a big man's game, and now with the luchadors and the high flyers and things have changed. So that makes an opportunity for guys that don't have the size that others might.
I'm trying.
Well, I mean, look, I like I said, I'll give the example. I have a friend of mine, Chris Urban, who trained at the House of Glory School, which was run by Amazing Red, and it took him 5 years.
Yeah.
We
We just talked about that place today.
Yeah, I actually went to the dojo. I watched him wrestle his debut match 2+ years ago. I have a picture of me and him. I would put it up, but he's got a mask on now. He'd kill me if I put the picture up. But
Yeah, don't be doing that.
it took him a long time to get out there. So I could certainly understand what you're talking about. And for you, Andrew, I mean, knowing that you have Richie and his wealth of information, what he brings to the table, you're always learning. I see you always on Facebook. You're going to this seminar. You're going to this place. You're meeting this wrestler. So what does Richie provide to you in insights that is helping you continue to grow in your journey here in the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit?
Tape studies, by far.
You're Mr. Tape Study. I know.
Oh,
You're
yeah, absolutely. Like he pulls up stuff from back in the day that I never even knew existed, and it just hypes me up. And I'm sitting there, I'm taking notes. I'm always studying stuff, but also he critiques my matches. He helps me get better. Like if he thinks my match is garbage, he'll tell me. He doesn't blow smoke at all. He'll be like, you need to do this. You need to make this adjustment. You need to fix this. Like, this could have been better.
Or that looked terrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he'll shoot on me for like an hour straight.
It's fascinating to me that you say that because Richie's a referee, but yet in some ways I think that the referee might have the best eye because the referee is watching the match in a way that would study it, would be able to make that, let's say, judgment call, figuratively and literally, to maybe where you see things that, okay, you know what, I missed that. Maybe I should work on that spot or work on that move. And I think it's very fascinating that Richie sits there with you and he watches matches and watches other matches and might ask you, Andrew, why don't you go watch this match to watch this?
Oh, yeah.
Watch that.
He'll send me links weekly.
And what are you studying right now? What are you, for the audience? What are you studying right now?
The last thing we were studying, he sent me the link to, it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hulk Hogan in a steel cage versus Macho Man and Zeus.
Okay, we're talking 89 then. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we studied some Nick Bockwinkel last.
Oh yeah, I love Nick Bockwinkel.
Well, Nick Bockwinkel sounds more like it because when I hear the names Beefcake and Zeus in a match, I'm thinking, okay, they're doing something there with the crowd. That's not a spot.
That's a gimmicky type thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's a gimmicky match, but I could see.
If we want to watch something solid, we'll watch Bockwinkel against Hennig or Bockwinkel Zbyszko.
Yep. Harley Race, Ric Flair, NWA or AWA.
That definitely sounds like tape study there. Bockwinkel and Hennig, that those are points that I definitely want to put out there. But before
Mid-South.
That's your Instagram. I want to make sure everybody follows Andrew on Instagram. Check him out. He is still the Mecca of the Mirror. I know the name is different on top. That's the old name, but it's still the Mecca of the Mirror. Check him out. You're going to see him coming up for HWF. Also, HWF YouTube channel should be him and John Rudden very soon. That match should be up as soon as maybe this weekend. So we'll get into that later on. I'll get into some of the people here that want to say something in the chat. But
John Rudden, he's a big dude.
What's that going to be like then? We're going to get a chance to watch that on YouTube, and hopefully, when you come back here again, we can watch the match on the air. But what kind of an opponent is he coming up? We haven't spoke about him with you. What's he going to be like for you guys to watch in the ring? Maybe I should have brought him up. I should bring up Chase Wakefield, beating him up and throwing him around. But
well, that's true. Yeah, that's fine. But no,
yeah, see what I mean? That changed all of a sudden.
John Ronan, he is a big man. Big man. I waited 10 years for the opportunity to wrestle him. Like that was one of me and my brother's dream
The
matches.
Juggernaut John Rudden, right? The Juggernaut John Rudden.
Yeah, he's probably. I'll tell you what. I'm going to put HWF over. They have a talented group in that locker room.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
Matt Silks runs a top-notch promotion. I'm
Hey,
going to
man,
say
his wife.
that Matt and Trista, they're top-notch, first-class people. I'll be returning there on January 11th.
That's the first show of the year for us. Yep.
Yep.
I haven't been there in a year, and it's not by design. It's just simply dates just didn't match up for
That's
me.
the life card subject to change. That's the old.
Yep. Always kind of subject to change.
Well, that does happen. But you waited 10 years to wrestle him? Wow. 10 years. Why?
Yeah.
Why did you wait so long? And what does it mean to you?
I wasn't where I was training wise, and the opportunity never arose. I just bite my time and hope that someday down the road we get to cross paths, and it happened. But it happened under unique circumstances. That's for sure. Like,
Well,
so
that happened.
I get to make my big return to HWF, and it was a year in the making, just traveling all over the state. And I had no idea who I was wrestling. I show up at the haunting at the Coliseum, and there was a ghost that comes out, and that was a big ghost. Big ghost.
That's the man we're looking at. That ghost right there.
Yeah. To see that big man across the ring, like.
Yeah, what I was going to say is he probably is the strongest guy in that locker room.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. You know, he is a bull.
Yeah, between him and
James Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, those two, you better reinforce the ring when you have those two in there because they are going to.
What do you, Andrew? I've watched you with different guys, and I've seen you in another place, and okay, you wrestled different people there, but I've seen you in Amplified, certainly, and some other places. But so how did you prepare for a guy like this that you've waited 10 years in the making for, but is just pound for pound a true slugger? So when we watch this match eventually on YouTube and we talk about it, I mean,
a lot of core work. The same with Ford. Like if I was going to have any sort of chance, besides the initial conditioning that like every wrestler goes to, core is pretty much it. If you can't lift the guy or take advantage of those moments and timing mishaps, like then you're SOL. Pretty much. Like that's the best thing I could say.
That's still, different than anybody else that you have to go out there and prepare for, and hopefully it'll be the outcome that we know it's going to be for you. But there he is, really big man, and I'm sure I'm going to be excited about that. Okay, so let me take this off.
Yeah, he looks really cute in that picture, Reverend. He looks really cute.
What was that? What did you say?
He looks really cute in that picture you had up there.
Well, I'm going to leave that at that. But okay, I appreciate you giving us your insights there. That was certainly your insights. But let me ask you then this question.
You're going to get me beat up again.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll beat him up, and we'll talk about it here when you both.
I'm not gonna lie, I'll go round 2 with John again.
Well, maybe you'll go round 2, 3, 4, and who knows whatever. Maybe you'll do a best of 7. But okay, I'll talk about that when the match is released. But for you, Richie, do you talk with or help other people like Andrew or is it just you and Andrew that have this relationship? I'd be curious about that for the audience.
Honestly, I'll help anyone if they ask me for it. I will help anyone. But as far as outside the ring, we only live like 5 minutes away from each other, so it's very convenient. Yeah.
Okay.
He can come over in 5 minutes. We can watch tape. We can do whatever. But like it shows and things like that, I'm open. If anybody ever has any questions or seeking any advice, any input, I'm always open to give my honest feedback. I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't hold back. If it sucks, I'll tell you it sucks to your face.
Oh yeah.
If it was good,
I like the honest blunt analysis. But let me ask you this question. I got to ask because you're a referee. I know Ian's been here a few times. I've had on some other people, Scott Bell, and yeah, Ian I think said hello earlier. I've had on different people who are referees. A guy I'm friends with, Scott Bell in the UK, is a very respected referee. So I've had on a bunch of different referees over the years. And what is it that made you want to become a referee? I think being a referee is one of the hardest jobs. I'll tell you why, because a guy that I interviewed who I knew for a while was a college basketball player, and he was an assistant coach, and he wound up actually trying to become a referee. He went to the referee school. I know being a referee in basketball is different than wrestling, but some of the technical points and some of the other things in terms of just your eye, I think there are similarities. And he told me here live on this platform, I'll never forget. He's like, Tom, being a referee is a lot harder than I thought it was. I was this player all these years, and I would argue about I didn't get the right call, and I thought it should have went one way, but then I went in their shoes and I put the zebra stripes on, and I went out there and took the classes and everything else, and it's not easy to do. And there was a guy famously in the NBA, Hayward Workman, who was an okay guard for the Indiana Pacers years ago, actually transitioned, and he talked about that. I'll never forget it, transitioning from a player to a referee. But what made you, Richie, want to become a referee? I think that's a fascinating story for the audience.
Well, Reverend, I've been a wrestling fan since I can remember. I really remember since 1983, probably. Okay. And I was always obsessed with pro wrestling for whatever reason, and maybe it's a mental illness. I don't know.
Don't say that here. You wouldn't like the backyard wrestlers that come on here. You'd probably say like 10 times worse than that. But
yeah, I probably would laugh. But I knew I didn't have the athletic ability. I knew I didn't have the size. It was a big man's game.
Sure.
I always wanted to be a part of it. I just wanted to be a part of the world of pro wrestling in any way that I could be. So sure. Me and my buddies went to a match down in Indiana, and we saw in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and I saw how terrible the referee was on the show, and I thought, I could do better than that. I could do that. Yeah. So then I always wanted to be a part of it anyway. So then I signed up, and I trained with the APWF school with Bad Bubba Brewer, and Chris Coleman was there, and some other guys.
Bill Collier.
Big time Bill Collier. He was there.
I definitely heard that name. I for whatever reason, somewhere I heard that name.
Yeah, he was there. So I just wanted to be a part of it, and I decided to be a referee. But I didn't take into consideration that, referee, okay, Loveless has a match. Okay, maybe he has a match, and they're going to say, you're going to go out there and do 8 to 10 minute match. Mm-hmm. Okay, say there's 2 referees on a show, maybe 3 if you're lucky. I'm out there for an hour and a half, or at least an hour, under the hot lights.
Like a 3-hour show, so about at least an hour and a half. Yeah.
Working, pretty much work. If I'm not working the match, I'm trying to get ready for the next match or whatever we have coming up, make sure the show runs smoothly. But you have to have a good cardio to be a referee,
because you're running spot to spot. You're sometimes arguing with the manager outside. Yeah. You have to go to this angle and that angle, and you have to make sure the match runs close to the time allocated. Yeah, I think it's a really difficult job. Like I said, I will quote the story of Billy Heenan. Billy Heenan was a player here on Long Island. He was a really, a decent player in basketball. He's like, I took the whole thing. I went to a training, and he was like, it was really hard. I mean, Scott Bell was an example. Scott Bell in the UK, a buddy of mine who wrestled a little bit, and said, I want to be a referee. And I never forget 3.5 years ago, him telling me on this platform how difficult it was to make that transition. I have a lot of respect for referees because I think it's a difficult job. It's not just, you're standing there and counting. It's like a lot more than that. So that's why I was curious. And who were some of the people that you looked up to? Was it the people you trained with or were training under, or what's that like?
Well, I definitely looked up to Bad Bubba Brewer, and because he's the one who gave me the opportunity. If it wasn't for him, I would never got the opportunity. So I'm grateful to him. I'll always be grateful to him. But as a younger kid, who do I look up to, or as an older?
could be anything. It's
My all-time favorite is Roddy Piper, but I always looked up to guys like Jesse Ventura. As far as refereeing, I based all my style. I watched a lot of Tommy Young from the NWA, Jim Crockett in the '80s. He would slide around the ring. He would, he likes to do the sliding count, which I like to do. He was all over the place, but he was in control. You always knew Tommy Young had a match. He was the referee, that it was an important match, and he had control of that match. And so that was someone I studied a lot in my evolving to become a referee. But I worked hard for a good couple of years until I finally, started to get breaks and work other places. And basically, it got to the point where I could kind of pick and choose wherever I wanted to work. I became in demand because, like you said, it is hard to find referees.
It's period. A very hard thing, and to be able to know how to do it, it's almost like
you find a good one.
It's almost like being almost somebody who shines and designs shoes. I got to ask you something, Andrew. I'm going to make you chuckle. You ever thought about being a referee?
No, I'd rather get punched in the face. Irish pride is a hell of a thing.
Wait. You mean to tell me you'd rather get punched in the face than learn a craft? Because again, I mean, you could be a referee till you're in your 60s and 70s. I mean, there's guys.
True, and I respect the craft a lot, but like, no, I don't know. Just always studying wrestling my whole life. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Like, I love the technical prowess side of things, breaking things down. Like, to me, it's far more exciting. And I don't know, I get some sort of sick, twisted pleasure in getting beat up and trying to overcome the odds again.
There's an art to this. There's certainly sweet science to this. I think it's very similar to boxing in that. We're here with Andrew Loveless, the Mecca of the Mirror, and respected referee Richie Allen. And Richie is here. He's even put on the referee uniform here. If I don't do the right things tonight, he's gonna count me out and disqualify me from Sportzwire Radio. Although I did kind of say that. Obviously,
I just disqualified a kid down at Sheets for stealing a Four Loco. I caught him.
That's right. I see it. I see it.
So maybe we should keep the zebra stripes on your day.
I keep the zebras on. I wear it all the time. I wear it to work.
Really? He's the law.
Well, you know what? You're going to laugh. In actually my home community, I actually sort of technically am the law because I'm a commissioner of deeds. I'm a notary public, so I actually can help authorize, sign the oaths and stuff like that with the laws. But you literally can do that 24/7. But
so if I need to notarized in New York, I can come to you, right?
You come to me, and I'll make sure. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll do it free of charge just for you. Because
I'll hold you to that.
You know why? You know why? Because you could actually disqualify me from, and I could lose my license. So I have to do.
You're right. You don't want that to happen.
Qualify, get it done. I could actually have my license disqualified. But let me get to some comments here real quick. Zilla's in the house. She wants to say hello. Nice to meet you. I got to ask you, gentlemen, about this guy. His name is Chase Wakefield, Richie. I don't know if you know Chase Wakefield, but this guy now, I would imagine that Mr. Wakefield needs a referee. And the reason he needs a referee, not because you're going to disqualify him from getting married. I'm sure I want that. But he's got apparently this wedding super show, this Chase Wakefield Wedding Invitational, taking place again in the great state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, as they would call it. It's taking place here sometime in August. And I was wondering, Mr. Allen, because everybody needs a referee, and it's very difficult to find a respected referee like yourself. And would you want to be invited to this wedding? Would you want to call some of these matches? There's some pretty familiar faces I'm sure you've seen in the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit. And I have to ask you this question, good sir. Would you like to be the referee for Mr. Wakefield's upcoming wedding invitational?
I'm not booked. I'm not invited.
You're not booked?
I'm not invited.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? Well,
I'm open to all negotiations here, but
I'll tell you what, Mr. Allen, I certainly want to be on your good side. And I want to put Mr. Wakefield's Instagram page up here, but I have a feeling that you basically just got invited because Mr. Wakefield can't say, oh, well, I can't book him. No, because he needs a referee, because otherwise he can't have all these matches. He can't have all these different matches without a referee. So I'm sure that Mr. Wakefield will certainly be in touch with you because, like I said, he does need a referee. So at the end of the day,
maybe you'll be my plus one.
Well, you
Yeah,
know
get
what?
Loveless book in there too. We'll go.
So you guys can go as a duo, and it's a package
Yeah,
deal.
we,
Mr.
we
Wakefield.
usually always travel as a package deal anyway.
Well, you know
Most
what,
of
and
the
that's
time.
why Mr. Wakefield, if he's booking Loveless, he's booking Allen, and there's really not much he can do about it because they're a package deal. And I think at the end of the day, Mr. Wakefield can't get out of this because he needs a referee. So I mean,
Let's make that
otherwise,
wedding a little bit more pretty.
now I gotta ask you, Richie. I know, Richie, you have seen a lot in this sport, and I got a lot of respect and admiration for you. But have you ever heard of this idea or concept? Has anybody done this before? And what do you think about this? A wrestler getting married, but then holding a wrestling show at the same time. I mean, I thought the Hart family would have did that because there's so many Harts and so many of them married to wrestlers, and there's a bunch of Rhodes now, and there's a bunch of different other people out there. How many Samoans are out there? Probably too many to count, but they apparently haven't had their own wrestling show while getting married. And what do you think of?
I think that Mrs. Wakefield, the future Mrs. Wakefield, would be very disappointed because I think that the Bitcoin billionaire should go make love after the wedding and not have a wrestling show.
Well, apparently, you know what? You believe it or not, soon to be Mrs. Wakefield, she's all for this, and it was apparently she gave the green light.
Probably her idea. I'm not surprised.
Believe it or not, Mr. Wakefield's been here twice since then, and yeah, she was basically saying you got to do this, and she's the one more gung-ho about it than him, and he's an interesting guy to begin with.
Well, I don't know what that says about him. Maybe his bedroom techniques aren't quite up to par.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that. We're a family station on here, but I'll tell you what, I'll let Mr. Wakefield figure out that, maybe he could ask Elon Musk for permission to fund the wedding because he was at a seminar with him 2 or 3 weeks ago, but that's his Instagram page. You want to go and get booked for the show or show up to the wedding, just tell him I sent you. Mr. Wakefield will be back here next month on Sportswire Radio, and you can find out more about that then. So
we'll just show up and eat all the cake.
Exactly.
I would have to imagine.
Well, you're going to eat the cake. So I'm on a diet.
No,
but we can crash it.
I would have to imagine that for a wedding like this is going to be a big cake. Very big cake.
Okay. I hear his wife likes cakes.
Well,
you know what? I mean, obviously, we'll certainly get into all of that, but I would imagine that's a pretty big wedding cake there.
I've never heard of somebody having a wrestling show at a wedding. That is a first for me. So, I mean, if that's what they want to do, go for it. But no, that is something I've never heard of, Reverend. So, definitely a first for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much the whole main thing here. But certainly. We'll get into all of that here for sure. And like I said, Mr. Wakefield is certainly attempting to have history, and it seems like he's going to do that. And we'll take this off the screen. You can get in touch with him. Let me get to some more of the chat. Speaking of referees, from one referee to another, Ian Graves would like to say hello. He wants to say hello. Nothing wrong with that,
Ian Graves.
He says hello to Loveless. He didn't say hello to me.
Actually, he said hello, guys. He said, guys.
Oh, okay.
And how is everyone? He did say, that sounds to me like everyone.
We're doing great, Carl. How's Jim?
Well, it's Ian, but I'll move on. Yes, hello, Zilla. Also, Mr. Graves would like to say this. Loveless, if I can say one thing about you, you're an amazing person and an amazing performer, not proformer. It was an honor to work with you, and at one point alongside you in training, and it is a great memory.
Wow.
I still hate you, Graves.
Well, I'm gonna miss you in PWX. I will say I'll definitely miss you in PWX, and I know that the best is still not to come, is about to come, but we're gonna miss you there in PWX. And we had Godric Sandwell.
But the thing is with wrestling, never say never. You never know.
Well,
No, you never know.
I got a whole bunch of comments here because Mr. Sandwell is here, the gentleman of exquisite.
No.
Oh, you know him? You know Godric Sandwell?
Yes.
Would you?
I certainly do know Mr. Sandwell.
Well, he's here, and he's here live, and
He's a top-notch referee. He's a very good referee.
Well, he's back here December 11th. He already booked his own return. Mr. Loveless, always great to see you. Mr. Allen, from a dapper gentleman to a premier referee, salutations, sir.
Absolutely. Right back at you, Mr. Sandwell.
Sandwell, somewhere down the line, me and you, we still have.
Well, right now, Mr. Loveless, Mr. Samuel's got a really painful shoulder right now. I don't know if you saw. I'm sure you saw what
Don't
happened.
put dirt on it. In the 80s, we would just duct tape that thing back together.
No,
He'll be
he
all
was
right.
in a match with Damian Abel, and he actually came off. We were watching a match from WVWF, and he was in a #1 contenders match for the Hybrid Championship, and literally the tape came off the shoulder practically.
Oof.
And he wrestled the match. And he was here on Sportswire. It was one of the most heroic performances in Sportswire history. Godric Sandwell, where he was in his injury and his frame of mind, it was right up there with Willis Reed in the 1970 NBA Finals. It was Kurt Schilling in the 2004 American League Championship Series with the bloody sock. I mean, that was how heroic Godric Sandwell was here last night. And Godric Sandwell was doubting himself. And he was like, oh, well, I don't know if the fans will believe in me, and I don't know, and all these different things. And I'm like, no, you're here. And don't worry, the fans will be with you. But he's got a match coming up Saturday. We talked a lot about it with a guy named John West, and we'll certainly let that go for a different time.
He needs to take time to let that shoulder heal up.
He said no. He said he's ready. He wants to go, and he's dedicated. He's
very hungry. He's very hungry.
He wants his goal
I remember
back.
when I was that age.
I'm just saying, if he doesn't give it enough time to heal up and me and him wrestle, that's a heck of a target.
You're gonna work on that thing, huh?
Well,
I'll dissect the crap out of that thing.
Jace Carr was the beneficiary, and John West might be even more of a beneficiary, but we'll see about that. 10 o'clock Eastern time, could be about 10:15. We'll have Hunter GJT, who's a promo wrestler. Yes, we cover it all on Sportswire. He'll be here, but we're here now with Mr. Loveless and Mr. Allen. So we're hanging out here for a little while longer. Speaking of people that certainly do a number of different things, TikTok influencer James Taylor hosts the Nemesis Sessions. He's also here. He also does a lot of Stone Cold influences. He got almost 100,000 followers on TikTok. He's here. He'd like to say hello to everybody. Maybe he should become a referee. He's got about 100,000 followers. I'm sure, no, why not? He could be a referee. Could you imagine he'd be the most well-known referee?
I like watching him beat the crap out of people.
He does do that well. He definitely does that very well, but we'll certainly say hello, and maybe he'll change his mind on being a referee. Yes, thank you for Mr. Samuel being here. We do appreciate Zilla's kind words. I also want to say, here's one here from Clara Lou Burkett, not to be confused with John Burkett, former 22-game winner for the 1993 San Francisco Giants, also from Pennsylvania, I believe. Everyone needs a good ref, but it's a package deal. Package deal.
Who said that?
Clara Lou Burkett. Not related to John Burkett, I imagine. But,
The name sounds familiar.
Well, if you do sound familiar, do hit the sub button for me on Sportswire Radio. I just hit 1,300 subscribers, and I'm on my road to 1,500. But thank you very much for you.
Thank you for the comment, Clara Lou Burkett. It is a package deal.
And we got some more comments. We got a lot more comments here. The chat's starting to heat up a little bit. I'm doing good. Well, yes, thank you, Godric Sandwell. Hello to James Taylor, the owner of ROBW. And also here, need good entertainment, a wedding and a day you'll always remember. So it seems like Clara's giving the endorsement about maybe you guys being together at that wedding, maybe you refereeing, you could get paid, right?
Maybe we get married too. How about that?
What? Is it legal in Pennsylvania? Can you guys get married in Pennsylvania?
Anything's legal in Pennsylvania until you get caught. That's all I'm saying.
Well, apparently they're still counting ballots.
Here.
I heard they're counting ballots in a Senate race still that was over. I mean, I'm not going to ask you politics, but I heard apparently that an incumbent senator had lost election, but they were still counting ballots. And
is there still counting?
I thought this was the ballots.
Get Bob out of there. Get Bob out of there.
Well, I think Bob is out, but I thought it was so fascinating that they were counting ballots or attempting to count ballots of people that didn't live in the state, whether they voted for the incumbent, soon-to-be ex-Senator Bob Casey or not. As somebody that's worked in the world of politics and has been in two elections that one was decided by 30 votes and the other by 13, I was like, boy, that's really fascinating. But yes, we'll certainly talk about that at different places in a different time, but I'll leave my political experiences out for a different show. Thank you very much for Ian tuning in. And also here, if the day comes, we cross paths in that hollow ground, that squared circle, we will revel in our combat. TikTok. As John Wick in the John Wick movies, TikTok, Mr. Wick. Maybe TikTok, Mr. Sandwell, right? Maybe TikTok, Mr.
That's right.
Sandwell.
It's not if, it's more like when.
Okay.
It'll happen.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Oh, well, and he's also wrestling in many other places as well. So, and I hope that shoulder heals because it was painful. I felt very bad for Mr. Sandwell last night on Sportswire. Just the performance he put on, it was heroic to say the least. But Mr. Graves has chimed in here. Please don't worry, Mr. Allen. I didn't forget about you. To be honest, I'm a big fan of your work, and I like to work alongside you someday down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. I appreciate the comment, and hopefully we can make that happen.
I don't see why not. I mean, listen, you guys don't
I'm open to anything. All offers. I'll work anywhere. Doesn't matter.
What's the Johnny Cash song? I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. You want to be everywhere in the Pennsylvania independent wrestling circuit. Okay, appreciate that. Still didn't get the tattoo. Maybe a while. But thank you, Zilla, for reminding me about that. But yeah, we appreciate you, Zilla. And we are here with Andrew Loveless, the Mecca of the Mirror, and esteemed and respected referee here, Richie Allen. Boy, I could talk with you guys for hours, but let me guys ask you this question. I know it's kind of hard because we're still in 2024. I've been asking this question to people recently that have been coming on Sportswire from different backgrounds. Like, what are your guys' goals here coming up for whatever is left of this year, but certainly going into 2025? Do you guys have both any goals or any sorts?
My goals are, I'm going to continue working closely with the APWF out of Indiana and
Indiana, Pennsylvania for the audience.
Indiana, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to continue working with the HWF in Lewistown.
Okay.
And I've refereed, down McKeesport a couple times here and there, but I don't see anything on the horizon for that. And basically, anywhere Mr. Loveless goes, I'm always willing to take a road trip, and sometimes I get put on a show even if I wasn't booked.
Well, that's
just bring your gear and show up, and sometimes
always.
you just get on a show because you're there.
Hard subject to change. You just never know. I mean, sometimes your biggest moments.
If they see me show up, chances are, and they need a rep, I'm going to be on the show, whether I like it or not.
Before I ask
That's happened to me a few times.
Before I ask Andrew the same question, something tells me about you, Richie, with obviously, and I said this with much love. Everywhere you go, you've always got the referee and anything else. I mean, you've always got your gear on. Something tells me that you've always got this shirt on.
I sleep with it on, yeah.
That's like when I was a kid growing up.
Referee the world.
Well, you know what? You have the best shirt to wear. You can wear it for pretty much anywhere. It reminds me as a kid, I used to, they would sleep with like your video game controller under your pillow or your basketball or whatever it could fit. And it's like, you just keep your referee shirt on there. That's why.
Yeah, I'm always ready to go. Some people have the 24/7 title, You never know when you're always ready.
It's funny you said that because my guest earlier today, DJB from the UK, Cutlery Championship Wrestling, he actually was for 3 days their 24/7 OK champion. Exactly.
So you always have to have a referee on standby.
Yep.
You never know, and
here I am. It could happen right now. Somebody could walk in the door.
Wow,
I might be needed.
Because I've had a couple of incidents on Sportswire where I'm speaking to a wrestler, and all of a sudden they get attacked from behind. Somebody goes through the door, and somebody just beats him up senselessly. They didn't even see it coming, and I've had it happen this year.
Wouldn't surprise me at this household.
Well, that's part of the reason I'm here. I'm trying not to let that happen.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's certainly good that you've given Mr. Loveless that supervision. But Andrew, I got to ask you, what would be your goals coming up, and maybe even into 25? What are some of those goals?
A lot more seminars, more education for sure. December, I'm going to a seminar for Dijakovic, so I'm investing in that. There's a few matches on my list that I want to get.
Tell them about the seminars you most recently did.
I did Bill Collier and Gregory Iron so far.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting more education every chance I can.
What did you
Like,
learn then from that seminar, from those two? What did you gain from that experience?
so for Bill Collier, it was a lot more on ring placement and little nuances for sure, and it's helped me out a lot, and I'm very thankful for that. That was one of the best investments for sure. One of the top two so far. For Gregory Iron, it was more about psychology and character development. So that was really enjoyable. Yeah. So next month it's going to be December 14th down at Rise Wrestling. I'm going down there for Dijakovic's seminar, and then for 2025, I got a few matches. Brooklyn Prodigies.
Well, I'm glad that you talked about the Prodigies, because the Prodigies are wrestling, I think, also that same day for the New Jack show that we're going to be promoting a little bit coming up after next week. And, they said a little bit about you in those Amplified Championships, and Mr. Wakefield was actually a part of that moment that I'm sure you'd like to forget. And the Prodigies here, and
I haven't forgotten.
Yeah?
Yeah. And somewhere in 2025, we'll meet again. But as for right now, my eyes are on Eric Black still.
Eric, a man that's also going to be wrestling in the Wakefield Invitational. Boy, how the wheel just turns. And Eric Black, talk to me about
Eric Black's one of my top 3 for the year for 2025. Him, Sicken, and Sugar Dan.
Sugar Dan, Sugar Dan Stovko, a man I've interviewed. Yep, sure. I feel like he's everywhere right now, Sugar Dan Stovko. When I first had him here like 8 months ago, he was like, I think, just new. But now everywhere I see him, he's going to be like one of these guys. He reminds me, there was a wrestler I interviewed 3.5 years ago. His name was Ishmael Vaughn. When I was first approached to interview him, he was a guy that he might have just came out of the Nightmare Factory. And he was like, he had no real wrestling experience. It was like, I knew somebody, and by luck, they were like, I want you to talk to this guy. So I talked with him, I interview him, and it was like, I was speaking with him a couple of months after that. We were still keeping in touch, and I was talking to him about some different people I had connected. And then, like, since then, he's like been on AEW Dark, and like, he's like, he would forget who I am if I messaged him. And I feel like Dan Stokes was going to, well, Ishmael Vaughn might remember me, but I feel like what Ish as they call him. But Stofko, he's on his way to being like a big name in the scene, and you should definitely.
I've been watching stuff with him and Travis Norbert out there at PPW a lot.
Travis Norbert, yeah. We were speaking about a lot of those different guys. What was the guy I spoke about? We had a guy, Zach Clark, come on here Sunday, and he's training, and he was talking about Keith Zimmer. Keith Zimmer is the name. I'm sure you heard of Keith Zimmer, right?
Yep.
It's about 814 wrestling. We were talking about PCWA. Talking about
814 is one of my goals for 2025.
Well, it's funny you say 814 because Mr. Savage, who's a usual here on Sportswire, who I owe an appearance on here, that's where he wrestles. Him and the Surge. Could you imagine that you and the Surge, or you and the Savage? That would be.
I studied that entire roster for sure, and they're only maybe an hour and a half from me.
Oh wow!
Less than that, I'd say maybe an hour 20 minutes. Like Altoona's, like I've spent a lot of my life in Altoona.
Oh wow! And that's almost like a home for you. It's almost like a home field advantage for you, almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be fun to see you wrestle some of these different people that have come on here. Stofko, definitely, but even like you and Savage, or you and the Surge, that would be. He's a big man. He's almost like wrestling John Rudden. He's a big man. He's a physical fitness instructor. He's done some, weightlifting and fitness competitions. That would be another guy that you and that'd be like you and
Zach Ramsey's.
Spencer Slade would be a good one for him.
Yeah.
The last match I refereed was Bill Collier against Spencer Slade.
I would like Spencer Slade. That's my number one goal before.
And I'll tell you this much: those two guys are machines. Just being in the ring with them, and the building was hot. It was hard to keep up with those two. They are machines, athletic machines. Their cardio is immeasurable.
By far, one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, I would like to see you in some of these
It-
places. I think that would be fun.
To me, it's right up there with Terry Von Erich and Ric Flair in the NWA title match. It was that good.
Wow.
It's
Well,
on YouTube.
It is.
I gotta watch. We gotta watch that one of these days. But I want to
Yeah,
watch
but-
more of your matches on YouTube. So the next appearance you're on, I think I really want to watch that John Rudden match with you. And I would say, yeah, selfishly, I think that you with Savage or you with Surge, I think would be. I think you and Savage would match up pretty well. Actually, I think you and him would match up. I think
It'd be
you and him
fun.
would match up pretty well. That would be a good one. Yeah, 814 would definitely be good. Let me ask you though, Richie, what are some of your favorite matches you've refereed in your career? You have any favorite matches you refereed and such?
Oh boy, let's see.
Any couple will come to mind and such?
The very first match I ever refereed was Abyss.
Oh wow,
Okay.
okay.
I've refereed. Let's see. I've refereed David San Martino against Larry Zbyszko.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I've refereed Tom Brandy against Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah, but I know Tom Brady. He was in WWF for a little couple.
Yeah.
Yep.
Him and the King. I've refereed like the Blue Meanie. I've refereed.
He's a Pennsylvania guy, right? Isn't he a Pennsylvania guy?
Yeah, Blue
Yeah.
Meanie's from Philly. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
We had him in Indiana a couple of times.
Yeah, he was again. He had a couple stints in WWE, ECW guy. Yep, BWL for sure.
I've worked with Adam Cole. I worked at IWC in Pittsburgh for a number of years, and everybody that came through there, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole, Elias, formerly known as Elias.
He's still working down there.
Who else? Help me out here. There's been so
Matthew
many.
Justice.
Matthew Justice. There's been so many guys.
Did you work Stevie Richards? Steven Richards? Pennsylvania?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, I walked right into that one, figuratively and literally. I just walked right into that because I was like, you mentioned the Blue Meanie. I'm like, okay, it's got to be Steven Richards, a Pennsylvania guy. He's become huge.
He's a lifer, baby.
I'll tell you what. I've met Stevie several times. I've been on shows with Stevie. I've never actually refereed one of his matches. Stevie's a nice guy. Love him.
Yeah, he's become huge in podcasting. He's become
he's doing good. I watch his podcast.
I watch him at like 2:00 in the morning sometimes, and he's
That's part of our tape studies too.
But I've refereed the Blue Meanie several times. I don't know, 3 or 4, and I've refereed
Nova.
No, I was on a show with Nova, but I never refereed him. But I was always an ECW fan before I got into the wrestling.
Who was it? I'm trying to think of. That was the RVD's referee. That Bill Alfonso.
Bill Alfonso. Fonzie, yeah.
Wasn't he a Pennsylvania guy too? Right? Wasn't Alfonso Pennsylvania?
Imported from Florida.
Okay. Well,
he started out Florida Championship Wrestling.
Because I kept thinking he
got imported.
Yeah, thinking that he came to you guys. That's a boy. I just walked right into that one. Boy, you got the BWO World. Yeah, I think I follow him on Instagram. Let me say hello to one of my buddies, Barry Gutman, from my confines here in Brooklyn. And Barry's got a YouTube channel. I got to give Barry a big plug. He does games. He does other things. He was actually talking about last week on the show. He's looking to get into wrestling. He's a really big boy. He's like, could probably be he's twice the size of Abyss in weight. He could definitely hold his own. I keep telling him to try to go into the wrestling world. He talked about it. Maybe he wasn't joking. Maybe he was. But he's got a YouTube channel. He's on tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. He was on yesterday at 6. He's got 39 subscribers. I remember when he had 1 subscriber, it was just me. And now he's got 39. So go out and hit us up for him. And he does a lot of different things. I'm trying to get him to become a wrestler. Maybe this will finally convince him because he's got the legendary Richie Allen as a referee that could teach him. Andrew Loveless, the Mecca of the Mirror, who could certainly beat him up for the next 6 months. His former employer, former state senator David Starobin would probably enjoy that. But until then, Barry Gutman's on YouTube. Give him a follow. Trust me, he's a hardcore gamer, and maybe he'll be a hardcore wrestler one of these days. He is from Brooklyn, and where he lives like right where the projects are. So like not like me who lives like in the friendly confines of New York City. Barry lives like in the hood. So Barry would definitely make a great wrestler. You know, Richie, I got to ask you this question as getting toward the second half of the show. What advice would you give to any prospective wrestlers or even referees? What advice? You've done so much for our sport. What would you give as advice?
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Why? Why not do it?
No. Now,
I wish I wasn't doing this right now. I wish I could give you guys the Sportswire platform. You guys can take the monetization.
I would tell them to work out.
Okay.
We just had that discussion.
Get in shape, but you got to look the part.
Yep.
You know, I'm glad you said that because I think
we talked about Adam Cole today.
You know, I got to be honest, and there are some really great wrestlers that come on here, and some of them look like, okay, look at the Surge. I mentioned the Surge. I mentioned Savage. Those guys look like wrestlers. Some others that have come on here, maybe not so much. I do think that part of what you do is to stay in shape. I listen, I don't have the muscles, but I've always stayed in shape. I always stayed active. I always exercised. I always played sports. And I think that if you are going to be a wrestler, I think it's like anything else. You should try to at least, you know, have some. Yeah, I always believe in that.
You're a professional wrestler, so you're a professional athlete.
Yep, absolutely.
I think you're more pride.
Be the best version of yourself.
You should take pride in that. That's why I take refereeing seriously, because I take so much pride in it. And I'm probably my own worst critic. I'll watch matches back that I've refereed, maybe catch something nobody else catches, but I'll catch it. Maybe it'll bother me. Same thing he does with his matches.
Yep.
Something bothers him, and I'll be like, you know what? You're probably the only one who even caught that. Nobody even caught it. But he knew what was going on.
Music. You know, my mother sings, and you know, sometimes as an artist, you know, you hear something, but the person listening to it, they're not going to know that you missed the note. They're not going to know that you didn't play the best recording to. So, you know,
don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't sweat the techniques.
Learn the basics. Hit the gym. Learn the basics. Get trained properly. I'm not talking about going in the backyard, bouncing around the ring. Get trained by someone who knows what they're doing, someone who can take you to another level.
Yep.
And then, you know, stay in shape and just
a couple of guys
keep showing up. Keep showing up. You never know, because you never know. You got to keep knocking on that door for opportunity, because opportunities are not going to present themselves easily. Sometimes you got to knock on that door and keep knocking until you get your foot in, and then go from there.
Absolutely.
So I tell young guys, just don't give up. You got to stay positive, stay in the mindset, and hone your craft, and let your work speak for itself, and you'll get booked. If you're good, you'll get booked.
I think that's a good piece of advice, and I do think that, you know, we had a couple of guys that have been in the backyard that have transitioned here. Devin Adams, a Pennsylvania guy who's been, you know, the Prodigies have kind of mentored him. They're the ones that told him to go train. I had Zach Clark, who does promo wrestling, but is now training, and I mentioned PCWA. So I think that naturally you should go out there if you want to go further into this, to certainly go and get the training. And I think that I couldn't agree with you more about, you know, looking the part. I think it's like anything else. I think that you should, it's in the long run, you're better off. I think there's some people here that, you know, do that, and others, I think that's, you know, to be determined. But you want to say something, Andrew? Go ahead.
At the end of the day, it's all an investment into yourself.
100%. And I think it's for your long-term health anyway. I think that ultimately, you know, you should want to go out there and do it for you and do it for yourself. And, you know, especially since, again, you are a product here of what you'll wind up being in your environment. And let me ask you guys, then, we're going toward the end of the show, and we want to thank Andrew Loveless and Richie Allen here. We're going to have the guys come back on here before the January 11th show. You're going to see Andrew definitely in action, HWF, January 11th, and Richie, I think you said you'll be there. So
I will be there. I will be there.
So I want to then ask you guys, as we get ready to close the show, what's next for you guys? What is next immediately in the short term? More seminars, Andrew? Is there anything else that, you know, we'll see you at?
Like this weekend, I'm going to help out a local company. Silent Pro Wrestling. So I'm going to help them with setup the next couple days.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it, if I'm on the card yet for a match or not, but like I'm just helping my community. Like, and there might be something I can learn there. So why not go and help out the wrestling business?
You know what you do, and I'll tell you what's important about that. Even if you don't get booked, you know what you wind up doing? You network. You network.
Absolutely.
You know? I was having a conversation with my guest earlier today, DJ B, and we were talking, and I said, he was asking me questions, and I said, well, what you should do is you go out in the community, you print some flyers up, print up some business cards, and shake some hands. And essentially what you're doing there, going to that show, even if you don't get booked, maybe you get booked, I don't know, but at least you're going there.
Do for DJ. We buy the spindles of CDs, hand them out at multiple events, business cards.
That's it. I've been done the business cards. I've been doing that for years. I mean, I would go out and in my own community, I would, shake hands and I would pass out my business cards. I still do that, once in a while to the business cards.
Kiss hands and shake babies, huh?
Well, I've been in the world of politics. I had never kissed a baby. I've not been a politician. Technically, I've worked on the campaigns, but I've never kissed the babies. That I have not done. But I've actually, it's funny because I've worked for a couple of people who've held office. I've never seen them kiss babies. I've never actually seen them that. But I'm sure we could talk about that at a different time. And it's Asylum Pro Wrestling. It's a company in Pennsylvania. It's in the Pennsylvania
out of Clearfield.
Okay,
yeah, it's asylum, not silent. Like say silent.
Yeah, she was hard at hearing. I mentioned it was
asylum, like you're crazy.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll have to see. And Richie, I was thinking, since you're going to come back here right before maybe that week of the January show, since you've done so much as a referee, maybe you should join Mr. Loveless in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. How does that sound for you, Rich? Do you want to be a Hall of Famer? I mean, you want to be a Hall of Famer?
I've never been in any Hall of Fame. So
well, now you'll be in one because before January 11th, you'll start off 2025 in one Hall of Fame here, which is the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And we actually have, it's a pretty interesting Hall of Fame because we have somebody that played the NCAA men's basketball Final Four. We have somebody that's going to be here next Sunday, as a matter of fact, who was the first Black British boxer to have fought 100 times. He's going to be in our Hall of Fame. So I have not just wrestlers. It's actually some legitimate people. I have some journalists in the Hall of Fame. So it's a
my beautiful place.
Andrew's in it. Zilla's in the Hall of Fame, so maybe that's what we'll do next time you come on here.
I would be honored, Reverend. I would be honored.
Well, you should be in the Hall of Fame. You're a New York Mets fan, so we should put you in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Well,
it's not easy to be a Mets fan,
Well, you know what? Listen, the life of a Met fan, but you've done so much for us, and I think it'd definitely be nice to honor you. And we'll have you and Andrew come back on. Maybe we'll have the Rudden match on by then. Maybe we'll see a couple of other announcements here as well to discuss. I think that would be a great idea. And while I'm at it here, if you are, because I still see a bunch of people still tuned in on YouTube, I want to thank my buddy Ernest Dove, who just shared our show on X. I got 60-something plus people there watching. That's Andrew's Instagram page. You can check him out on Facebook, a number of different places. You'll see him. You'll get more updates on Facebook. It's Andrew Loveless on Facebook. Instagram, that's his page. You'll see him maybe at Asylum Pro coming up. You'll definitely see him at HWF coming up on January 11th, which is really not that far away, gentlemen. It's actually, if you do the math, it's 52 days. It's 7.5 weeks from now. It's nothing. That's going to be here quicker than a New York minute. So we're going to definitely see a lot more coming from you. And I'm very excited about the future. So we'll certainly see. And, before we get to closing thoughts, is there anything else you guys want to plug or share before we get ready to give you guys the last words?
I'm just looking forward to a great 2025.
Maybe your Mets will do better.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Who's going to do better?
The Mets?
He's bringing up the Mets.
Oh, the Mets. Well, listen, Mets wins in the National League Championships. Mets fans can't complain. Listen, considering the Mets beat the Phillies this year in the National League Division Series, and this
we weren't even supposed to be there. So
the Mets. Well, listen, I gave up on the Mets at the end of May. I did one of my shows. No joke, real quick. I did one of my shows, and one of my analysts, Rob Maraska, who's like older than like Abraham Lincoln, was talking about the Mets. And I was like, I don't even want to talk about this. It was one of the games, I think it was the game they blew against Pittsburgh. It was one of those games early in the year. And it was like, all right, I'm not talking about this team. I gave up on them. I gave up on them even in August when they lost. I think it was 3 out of 4 to the Braves. They were like 4 games back. Although Seattle, they got swept by, yeah, there you go. Well, you guys did go to a World Series more recently, but I will say this.
They beat them.
Well, I did bring that up, but I'll say this on the Mets. I even gave up on. They got swept by the Mariners, who did nothing almost the entire second half. And I was like, yeah, this team is done. They were done so many times. The Brewers series, they were done. The Braves, the Monday game, they were done. The first of the 2 games, they were done. You know, the Phillies series, Phillies come back and win the second game. And the Mets had a great run. So a Met fan, I know they didn't get to the World Series, we didn't get the Subway Series, quote unquote, but the Met fan really, I mean, they're walking on basically, you know, thin air right now. You're walking on a magic carpet ride.
We had a great run. It was a great run.
Great year. Mets and Phillies both made the playoffs. Were good. They played in the postseason. That almost never happens. But you know what? Then we'll certainly see. We're gonna have you guys on. Maybe the Tuesday or so. Maybe the Tuesday that week is the 11th, right? So that we'll do that maybe on that Tuesday. If you guys run, you'll tell me the date. We'll work on it. We got some time. But let me give some closing thoughts. I'm going to go with you, Richie, first. Absolute honor to have you, good sir. And Bill Alfonso has nothing on you, so let me make that clear. And definitely, you could do. And listen, you wouldn't double cross ECW like Bill Alfonso, because once upon a time he did double cross ECW. He did. I know he went back, but he did double cross them, and he did double. You know,
he was trying to enforce the rules, and they didn't want rules.
The good news is you always enforce the rules. You've always got that zebra shirt with you, and I'm going to pass the baton to you right now for some closing thoughts, good sir.
I've just enjoyed having this run. I've been doing it since 2007, so what, come up on 18 years as an indie referee.
Wow.
I've met a lot of childhood idols. I've refereed some great matches. Right now, I'm just having fun. My career as a referee is probably winding down. So as long as I'm still having fun, I'll keep doing it. I can't tell you when. I thought I was retired, 4 years ago, but apparently I'm not now. I'm back in action, but I'm having fun. So as long as I'm still having fun, and as long as people still want to book me, I'll keep going.
Book him.
And we got to get this guy up progressing and get him to the level he wants to be at.
Well, I think it's very commendable that you go out and do these seminars. A lot of these guys are like, I'm on the indies now. I'm an indie wrestler. But no, you're like, you know what? I'm still, like, I got more to do. I got more to learn. I think that's very commendable. Very commendable.
You never stop learning. You never stop. Never. I never. And he's very hungry about it. And that's what I appreciate about him. He's very hungry about learning and honing his craft and trying to get better all the time. Very hungry. And that's what you need. You need it in this business. You have to be passionate.
Anybody that's successful in life, they wanted it.
Exactly.
I remember my father. I tell the story all the time. Growing up in Brooklyn, we didn't have much, but I got a basketball one year, and I never forget the story. And I've been telling it the last few weeks on Sportswire. He gave me this double basketball. It wasn't a Spalding basketball, wasn't a Rawlings basketball, wasn't a Wilson. It was a double basketball. It was like a cheap $20 basketball, and all he told me was to dribble the ball. He would call me from his job. Did you dribble the basketball? Yeah, are you out there? And I would dribble it. And it didn't hit me till years later. The reason that was important was because it was about repetition. It was about practice. So,
muscle memory.
That's it. Muscle memory. And that's, why all I do is I'm an AI version of myself, because all I do is I'm here on Sportswire. But
thank you. Sleep? Do you sleep, Tom? Do you ever sleep?
I actually slept a little bit today. I some days I don't.
You sleep with the microphone in your hand?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because growing up, I actually always, when we would go up as a kid, we were kids, and I would almost try to announce the wiffle ball games we would play, and I would go to sleep. I would go to sleep sometimes because it was weird in Brooklyn. You were in the street. It was like you would hear noise and things in the back. And where I am now, it's a different world. That was way different then. But I would sleep sometimes with the radio on. So I loved the radio. I would that was my thing, whether it was, news. And I did have, as an early age, I liked politics and I liked sports. So I always, in a way, did kind of have a passion for talking. And it wasn't until, 6+ years ago when I did this. But yeah, I mean, you could say that maybe I slept with the radio. I can't tell you how many times I slept with the radio in my hand. I slept with the radio growing up. I had a radio, or the radio would stay on. I would sleep. When we changed rooms, I still had the radio, or I had the TV on, ESPN. I would sleep with ESPN on until because I remember it was weird because where I lived, it was like I was right off 4th Avenue, which for those that would know in Brooklyn,
I know where that is.
4th Avenue.
Yep.
And I was in Bay Ridge. I was at the end of 4th Avenue, which, was still
Okay.
like a big, the bus was like across the street. We were like a block away from a funeral home. And people always you'd always hear like fast cars. So I always slept with some type of noise on. Now it's like, it doesn't matter for me. It's like, I work doing newspapers overnight. I want to be overnight. But back in those days growing up, but yes.
I think if you and I had a political discussion, that would be a whole another podcast.
I actually did 7 months on a radio show with a man that came on my birthday show, Heshi Tischler. And, I do have a background in politics. Maybe off the air, I'll tell you about that for a few minutes. You might like some of my political views. I don't know, but I've been thinking about that to boost the viewership. But I don't know if that's the right call because I
know it's like you're on the fence. It's a controversial thing.
I have a lot of people,
It's a sensitive subject for some people.
It's a touchy subject, and I think that people, they come here to get away from that. But we can talk about it off the air for sure. But thank you, Richie, for that. Mr. Loveless, I'm going to give you the floor now. Put up your Instagram, and anything else you want to plug, Sarah, say. I pass the baton to you.
No, not really. I'm just trying to keep learning, keep grinding. I want to get better. I want to become the best version of myself that I possibly can for any locker room I step my foot into.
I believe you will. I definitely believe that you're going to do that. I have no doubt that you will most certainly do that. And I really believe that in the cause. And I think that people should go out there and hit the sub button for me on Instagram. That's Andrew's page. And Richie's on Facebook. Simple Richie Allen, not to be confused with Dick Allen.
That handsome devil.
What's that? What was that?
I said my Instagram, I was pointing it out to him. I said, look at that handsome devil.
I always put up everybody's social media. So unfortunately, Facebook, I'm locked out of on my laptop. So I really can't put Facebook up. But Andrew's on Instagram. Let's boost him up. He's at 455. Let's get him to 456, 457, so on and so on. These guys are going to be here in a matter of weeks. We'll put Richie in the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about some.
Whoa, I can't believe it. I'm so honored, Reverend. I've never been a Hall of Famer.
Well, now you'll be a Hall of Famer. That'll be the New Year's that we'll start off with. We'll put you in the Hall of Fame. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited about that, plus a whole bunch of other things we'll talk about as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to starting the year off with you guys. And best of luck for the rest of the year. Andrew, keep up the great work at Asylum, whatever you do this weekend, and we'll definitely see you guys here very soon.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for having us.
And Ian Graves, I still hate you.
Yeah, well, that's an issue that it's going to transcend PWX. And I did hear Ian on commentary. He did say it. Well, that was rather controversial, but a win's a win. That's what he said in your last match over there. So, but we'll have to see. We'll resume that at a different time. I'll ask Godric Samuel. Godric Samuel is back in a couple weeks. Maybe I'll bring that up again. But thank you to everybody here for tuning in. I'll be here back in about 45 or 50 minutes, so hang on tight for that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. You have voiced figuratively and literally with all wrestling matters. We're joined here by the Mecca of the Mirror, Andrew Loveless. You'll see him definitely at HWF January 11th, to be determined other places. And, of course, the legendary referee, Richie Allen. You never, ever have seen a referee like this one, I tell you. And you can't wait, and I can't wait to put him in that Sportzwire Radio Hall of Fame early in 2025. Hang on tight here. I'll be back on in a little while. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station. That is Sportzwire Radio, where all wrestling matters. I'll see everybody here in a little while. Tune in.